The death of Michael Jackson, the King of Pop, was a tragedy that left the world in shock and mourning. For many, the news was not just of a beloved icon's passing, but the end of an era, marked by his unparalleled talent and influence. Yet, as the initial shock began to subside, questions arose that have since fueled speculation, controversy, and a myriad of conspiracy theories. How did Michael Jackson, a man who seemed to have everything, end up dead in his bedroom on June 25, 2009? The official cause of death was listed as acute Propofol intoxication, but the circumstances surrounding his final moments have been shrouded in mystery and intrigue. This video will delve into the events leading up to Jackson's death, the role of Dr. Conrad Murray, and the various theories that have emerged, ultimately leaving us with more questions than answers. As the concerts for the This Is It tour grew nearer, Live, the concert promoter, must have been growing increasingly nervous. Jackson's rehearsals were not going well, and there were concerns about his physical and mental state. Live was also facing a significant problem. The insurance company was demanding that Jackson undergo a second medical examination and release his medical records. This was a crucial requirement, as the insurance policy was necessary to cover the massive financial risk of the tour. However, Jackson was reluctant to comply, and this reluctance was causing significant tension. Jackson's refusal to meet the insurer's demands put Live in a difficult position. The company had already invested a substantial amount of money and resources into the project, and the cancellation of the tour would have been a financial catastrophe. Live began to put pressure on Dr. Conrad Murray, Jackson's personal physician, to persuade the singer to agree to the insurance company's requests. Murray, already in a precarious financial situation, was a key figure in this scenario. He had been promised a lucrative contract of $150,000 per month plus expenses, but the money would only be released once the contract was signed. This financial pressure made Murray vulnerable to manipulation and influence from those with more power and resources. Murray's role in Jackson's life was complex. He was not just a doctor, but also a confidant, and to some extent an enabler. Jackson had a long history of drug addiction, and Murray was the latest in a line of healthcare providers who had facilitated his access to prescription drugs. The Jackson family lawyer later commented that the people surrounding Jackson had been enabling his addiction, and Murray was no exception. However, what set Murray apart was his desperate financial situation. The promised contract was a lifeline, and without it, he faced financial ruin. This vulnerability made him an easy target for those who might have had ulterior motive. The night before Jackson's death, Murray had administered a series of sedatives to help the singer sleep. However, Jackson was still restless, and Murray decided to administer Propofol, a powerful anesthetic not typically used outside of a hospital setting. According to Murray's account, he gave Jackson a small dose of Propofol, monitored him, and then briefly left the room to use the bathroom. When he returned, he found Jackson unresponsive. Murray's story, however, was riddled with inconsistencies. In his initial interview with the LAPD, he claimed to have left the room at 11 a.m. and returned 2 minutes later. In a later interview, he stated that he had left the room at 11:20 a.m. These contradictions, along with the high levels of Propofol found in Jackson's system, raised serious doubts about Murray's account. The toxicology report revealed that Jackson had received a much larger dose of Propofol than Murray claimed. The concentration of Propofol in his blood was far higher than what would be expected from a single small dose. Dr. Stephen Schaefer, an expert in anesthesiology, testified that the levels of Propofol found in Jackson's body were consistent with multiple administrations of the drug. This raised the question, if Jackson did not self-administer the lethal dose, who did? One theory is that Murray, under pressure from Live or another influential party, may have been persuaded to facilitate Jackson's death. The idea is that Murray, desperate for the promised contract and financial security, was coerced into leaving a lethal dose of Propofol within reach of Jackson and then conveniently leaving the room. This theory is supported by the inconsistencies in Murray's account and the high levels of Propofol found in Jackson's system. However, this scenario is highly speculative and lacks concrete evidence. Another theory is that Murray was simply negligent in his duties as a physician. He may have administered the initial dose of Propofol and then failed to properly monitor Jackson, leading to an accidental overdose. This theory is supported by the fact that Jackson had a history of drug addiction and was known to be desperate for sleep. It is possible that Murray's negligence, combined with Jackson's own actions, led to the fatal outcome. Regardless of the theory, one thing is clear. The events leading up to Jackson's death were complex and multifaceted. The pressure from AG Live, Murray's financial desperation, and Jackson's own vulnerabilities all played a role in the tragedy. The official narrative, which ultimately led to Murray's conviction for involuntary manslaughter, is that he was negligent in his medical care of Jackson. However, the many unanswered questions and inconsistencies in the case suggest that the truth may be more complicated. In conclusion, the death of Michael Jackson remains one of the most puzzling and controversial events in recent history. While the official story is that Dr. Conrad Murray was negligent, the many unanswered questions and theories suggest that the truth may be more complex and multifaceted. The legacy of Michael Jackson, the King of Pop, continues to inspire and captivate, but the circumstances of his death will likely remain a subject of debate and speculation for years to come.